Do you guys remember that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni drama that went on when the movie It Ends With Us was released earlier this year? Well, we are bringing that situation right back because it has come out this morning that Blake Lively wants to sue Justin Baldoni amongst a number of other people who are on his team. This situation is absolutely shocking, and I'm telling you guys, you will be thinking very differently about the whole movie and all of this stuff that went down once you hear about the things that have come out in a New York Times article that reveal text messages between Justin and his PR crisis team. This is a heavy story here, you guys, and we are going to get into everything that has come out. News broke this morning that Blake Lively has officially filed a legal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, which is essentially a precursor to a lawsuit. She's suing Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Wayfair Studios, their billionaire co-founder Steve Swartz, and key PR figures involved in the campaign. She gave a statement to the New York Times they published that reads, "In a statement, Miss Lively said, I hope that my legal action helps pull back the curtain on these sinister retaliatory tactics to harm people who speak up about misconduct and helps protect others who may be targeted." She also denied that she or any of her representatives planted or spread negative information about Mr. Baldoni or Wayfair. And for anyone who doesn't know, Wayfair is the production company that Justin Baldoni co-founded and also made the It Ends With Us movie. So here's the breakdown of how we even got here to this moment. It Ends With Us, a highly anticipated film based on the Colleen Hoover novel, starred Blake Lively and was directed by Justin Baldoni. Everything seemed to be all sunshine and rainbows at the beginning of this year as Justin was arm in arm with Colleen Hoover promoting the movie. But just before the film's release, fans noticed that Justin was not followed by any of the major players in the cast and that Colleen Hoover had unfollowed him. He also started doing press by himself and people wanted to know why. He was also the only one that was promoting the film for what it truly was about, which is DV, whereas the rest of the cast had been promoting it in a lighthearted, romantic comedy type of way. Now, Blake has gotten a lot of backlash for how she promoted the film as people felt like she was not taking it seriously. And there was a lot of speculation surrounding creative differences between Blake and Justin, as it seemed the two had different visions for how the film should be. The Hollywood Reporter had reported that Blake had commissioned her own cut of the film even, which according to the New York Times, we now know that in the end, Sony and Wayfair went with Blake's cut and she got a producer credit. But at the time this was all getting talked about, the internet really didn't love this idea that Blake took over the movie feeling like they could see why Justin would be upset, but they didn't understand why the rest of the cast would unfollow Justin. It was certainly a really confusing time because when you think about it, if Blake was this controlling person who took over the movie, you would think that the cast would be on Justin's side and follow him, but everyone was just dying to know what the heck the tea was behind the scenes. Claims of inappropriate behavior on set then started coming out though, where articles claimed that Justin made Blake feel uncomfortable on the set of It Ends With Us. This is when Justin Baldoni hired a crisis PR manager. He hired Melissa Nathan, and the Hollywood Reporter wrote at the time, Nathan launched the agency group earlier this summer after spending nearly a decade working for leading crisis strategist Matthew Hiltzik. Her New York-based outfit specializes in communications, crisis, reputation management, personal publicity, and digital team services across the entertainment industry. Among the clients joining her from Hiltzik Strategies was Johnny Depp, whom she represented during the Amber Heard trial. And now Blake is suing over all of this, feeling like her reputation tanked as a result of her speaking out against what was going down on set with Justin. According to the complaint, during filming, Blake raised some pretty serious concerns about misconduct on set. And when I say misconduct, I mean repeated boundary violations, inappropriate comments, and just overall unsafe vibes, according to Blake's allegations. Blake allegedly requested safeguards, including a full-time intimacy coordinator and outside oversight. The studio Wayfair agreed in writing to these safeguards and promised no retaliation against Blake. But here's what I'll say, you guys. There's been a lot of comments made about Blake's just trying to save her reputation, but she ruined her own reputation, that the way she promoted the film, people didn't love that. She did that to herself. There was also that interview that came out where she looked like a total mean girl. And I definitely think that those things did make her look bad. But according to this New York Times article that includes screenshots, emails from Justin and his PR crisis team, it seems they use those things to their advantage to try and bury this other story of how Justin was on set. Because according to the complaint, her filing includes excerpts from thousands of pages of text messages and emails that she obtained through a subpoena. These and other documents were reviewed by the New York Times. He wants to feel like she can be buried, a publicist working with the studio and Mr. Baldoni wrote in an August 2nd message to the crisis management expert Melissa Nathan. "You know we can bury anyone," Miss Nathan wrote. In the following weeks, Miss Nathan, whose clients have included Johnny Depp and rapper Drake and Travis Scott, went hard at the press, pushing to prevent stories about Mr. Baldoni's behavior and reinforce negative ones about Miss Lively. The text messages show Jed Wallace, a self-described hired gun, led a digital strategy that included boosting social media posts that could help their cause. And I just want to say that the New York Times did make the full complaint public, so if you want to read through the entire complaint and see all of these screenshots yourself, it is there for your public viewing in case anybody wants to second guess whether this is real or what the heck. It is public on the New York Times website. I will link it in the description of this video. So what went down on set? According to the New York Times, she detailed her complaints during a meeting with Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and other producers in January. According to the legal filing, she claimed Mr. Baldoni had improvised unwanted kissing and discussed his intimate life, including encounters which he said he may not have received consent. Mr. Heath had shown her a video of his wife with no clothes, she said, and he watched Miss Lively in her trailer when she was topless and having body makeup removed despite her asking him to look away. She said that both men repeatedly entered her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding. But these are the claims that Justin's representation claims are all false and is just Blake trying to recoup her image after the bad press from It Ends With Us. In a statement to the New York Times, an attorney for Wayfarer said in a statement to the Times that the studio, its executives, and public relations representatives did nothing proactive nor retaliated against Miss Lively and accused the actress of another desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation. These claims are completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media, the lawyer Brian Friedman wrote. Apparently in May, Justin realized that Ryan Reynolds had blocked him on Instagram, and that's when he texted his publicist, Jennifer Abel, that they should plan for when the movie comes out if Blake were to say something. And according to the documents and messages that the New York Times was able to see, we are now hearing what apparently Justin and his team were saying to crisis management expert Melissa Nathan. In the article, they wrote, "In an initial planning document sent to Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, on August 2nd, Miss Nathan suggested media talking points, including that Miss Lively used an imbalance of power to take creative control of the film. But Mr. Baldoni wanted more. Not in love with the document they sent. He responded in a text exchange that included Miss Abel and Mr. Heath. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on the call. Miss Abel relayed his frustration to Miss Nathan. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. Of course, but you know, when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. Miss Nathan responded and added, we can't write, we will destroy her. Moments later, she said, imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. You know we can bury anyone, she wrote. And it seems their texts reveal their plan to completely destroy Blake on social media. The Times wrote, 3 days later, Mr. Baldoni texts Miss Abel, flagging a social media thread that accused another celebrity of bullying behavior and had generated 19 million views. This is what we would need, he wrote. Miss Nathan soon floated proposals to hire contractors to dominate social media through full social account takedowns by starting threads of theories and generally working to change narrative. All of this would be most importantly untraceable, she wrote. In text, Jennifer says, I think we need to put the social combat plan into motion, and Melissa said, so do I. Now, in the complaint, you can see Justin's exact text messages of the screenshot that he sent of Hailey Bieber as the celebrity that they were writing about in the New York Times. He had texted them a thread of Hailey Bieber's history of bullying women and him texting, this is what we would need, and him getting the response, yes, I literally just spoke to Melissa about this on the break about what we discussed last night for social and digital, focus on Reddit, TikTok, IG. The text messages are pretty revealing from Justin and his PR crisis team that they believe they got really lucky in all of this because the press was more focused on reporting on Blake negatively than reporting on the HR complaints about Justin. The Times wrote, Miss Nathan had already been speaking to other journalists according to text messages when Miss Abel wrote to her August 4th that I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with just to get ahead of it. Miss Nathan replied that she had spoken off the record to an editor at the Daily Mail. "She's ready when we are," Miss Nathan wrote. A flurry of articles followed the Hollywood Reporter piece. Many made it seem as if the only rift was over creative control. Some journalists had gotten wind of complaints about Mr. Baldoni's behavior, but none of the most serious ones were published. "He doesn't realize how lucky he is right now," Miss Nathan texted Miss Abel. In other exchanges, Miss Nathan claimed that she had kept allegations against him out of stories, writing in one message that major news outlets were standing down on HR complaint. In text messages that the New York Times published from his publicist and crisis manager, they texted saying, "So are we in the clear now? Did we survive? All press is so overwhelming. We've confused people. So much mixed messaging. It's actually really funny if you think about it." More messages from Jed Wallace, who led a digital strategy for his crisis PR team, were revealed, where he said, "We are crushing it on Reddit," Mr. Wallace told Miss Nathan, according to a text she sent Miss Abel on August 9th. The next day, one of Miss Nathan's employees texted, "We've started to see shift on social due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative." Miss Nathan wrote to Miss Abel, "And socials are really ramping up in his favor. She must be furious. It's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women." Now, this definitely seems like a situation to me where two things can be true at the same time, where you could not love Blake Lively and also recognize that Justin Baldoni and his actions were hidden by the fact that people hated on Blake Lively so much. But I will say, in terms of the promotion for the film, that was addressed in the complaint, as apparently the original plan was for them to promote the movie all together the same way, and then Justin kind of went rogue and did something by himself. Now, obviously, people will read this and think that Blake is just trying to save her butt, but obviously there is documentation that they did have to sign. She can't just like make that up. But I will read you guys what it says in the complaint. It says, "Leading up to and in connection with the release of the film during the summer of 2024, Miss Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan created and delivered by the film's distributor, Sony, which is summarized in the talking points attached here. Miss Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to render promotional services in accordance to the marketing plan. The marketing plan directed the cast to focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope." In the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing with him in public. To that end, he and his team used DV survivor content to protect his image, as described in further detail below. And there are text messages between Justin and his team in which he is telling them to push this content where he is talking about the film. In a text message, he said, "Hey, just landed. What is the TikTok strategy? I'd like you guys to start posting me only talking about DV and clips and why this movie is so important." And in another text, he says, "Also, I need you guys to really be on all the stories I'm tagged in. I think you should let all people DM me so you can see people's reactions to film, and I can be reposting everything. These next 36 hours are crucial and we need to be on it. Looking at everything, finding the most emotional and touching content from survivors supporting this film and reposting. Need you to be finding survivors, sharing their stories and amplifying them on my page and TikTok." Now, I will say, when I'm reading this could be taken two ways. Obviously, people could look at this as him being performative, or they could look at it as him genuinely caring and wanting to share these stories. But I will say, though, that these other text messages of his PR crisis management team talking about how happy they are that Justin is not getting talked about negatively, and they're so hyped on the fact that Blake is getting torn apart in the public, doesn't make him and his team look good at all. Now, I will say, in the complaint, they did include the talking points that the studio wanted the cast to say when they were interviewed about the movie. It said, "What to avoid. Focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV. Empowerment is not just about standing up to adversity, but also about having the power to overcome within oneself and grow from it and developing agency to shape the future. Avoid describing the film as a love story or love triangle. It's a story of Lily learning to take agency of her future. Avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. Avoid talking about the film being representative of every woman's story. There are many stories of DV, and this is just one perspective that is inspired by Colleen Hoover's own experiences growing up." I do think that once the public was not responding responding well to this way of promoting the film. They should have changed things up instead of keeping forward doing it. I mean, I guess maybe the studio was telling them that they needed to still be promoting the film the way that they were, but that definitely did not help in this entire situation. But we can see in documents that they were asked to promote it this way. But as of right now, that is what has come out in this entire situation, you guys. There are a lot of layers to this story, and I really do think that there are multiple things that occurred during the filming of this movie that, you know, you could say that there were things that Blake did that people didn't like, there were things that Justin did that people didn't like, but a lot of people didn't really hear about the things that Justin did because of the fact that the hate was so loud against Blake that media outlets were not reporting on Justin. The bigger story was the hate on Blake. And the accusation here is that his team played a really big part in amplifying the hate towards her. So I certainly want to know what you guys think about this whole situation. It's really crazy how divided the internet can be on a topic like this, and I'm really curious to know what you guys think about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.